The sky burned red above Colony New Geneva as the alien ships landed. Maya Chen pressed her face against the cold glass of the shelter window, watching the massive metal vessels touch down on what used to be the playground. Smoke rose from the burning buildings around them. The grown-ups were crying or praying or just sitting still with empty eyes. Maya was 8 years old and she was not afraid. The Zephyrians came out of their ships like walking crystals. They were tall, much taller than any human, with bodies that looked like they were made of blue-green glass. Their skin caught the light and threw it back in sharp angles. When they moved, Maya could hear a soft chiming sound like wind through crystal bells. "Stay quiet, little one," her mother whispered, pulling Maya back from the window. "Don't let them see you." But Maya had already seen them, and more importantly, she had seen their leader. He was different from the others. While the other Zephyrians wore simple crystal armor, this one wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. He was bigger too, and when he walked, the ground seemed to shake just a little. The other aliens moved around him like he was the center of their world. The shelter door exploded inward. The Zephyrian soldiers came in with weapons that hummed with blue energy. The humans inside screamed and pressed themselves against the walls. Maya's mother tried to push her daughter behind her, but Maya stepped forward instead. "Everyone out," said one of the soldiers. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together, but Maya could understand him. "The Alpha King wants to see all humans." They were herded outside into the main square. Maya had played here just yesterday with her friends. Now it was full of alien soldiers and scared people. The beautiful crystal beings looked down at the humans like they were looking at insects. The Alpha King stood in the center of the square. Up close, Maya could see that his crystal skin had patterns that moved and changed like water. His eyes were deep purple, and when he looked at something, it seemed like he could see right through it. "I am Vexathara," he said, and his voice carried to every corner of the square without him shouting. "This world belongs to the Zephyrian Empire now. You will work for us. You will obey us. You will serve us until you die." The humans looked at their feet. Some of them were still crying. Maya's mother held her hand so tight it hurt. "We are not cruel," Vexathara continued. "Serve well and you will live well. Fight us and you will die quickly. This is the way of things." Maya looked around at all the scared faces. She looked at her mother, who was shaking. She looked at Mr. Peterson, who used to run the candy store and always gave her extra gumdrops. He looked so small now. Then she looked at Vexathara. The Alpha King was still talking about rules and work assignments, but Maya was not listening anymore. She was thinking about the stories her grandmother used to tell her. Stories about brave princesses who saved their kingdoms. Stories about small people who did big things. Maya let go of her mother's hand. She walked forward. The Zephyrian soldiers noticed her first. They raised their weapons, but Vexathara held up a hand to stop them. He looked down at the small human child walking toward him with no fear at all. "Maya, no," her mother cried out, but Maya kept walking. She stopped right in front of the Alpha King. Her head barely came up to his knee, but she tilted her face up to look at him anyway. "Hello," she said. Vexathara stared down at her. Around the square, everyone had gone very quiet. Even the other Zephyrians seemed surprised. "You are not afraid," Vexathara said. "It was not a question." "No," Maya said. "Should I be?" Something that might have been a smile crossed the Alpha King's crystal features. "Most humans your age run when they see us. Most humans don't know what they want to be when they grow up," Maya said. "I do." "And what is that, little human?" Maya looked right into his purple eyes and said the words that would change everything. "I'll be your queen someday." The silence that followed was so complete that Maya could hear her own heartbeat. Then one of the Zephyrian soldiers made a sound like breaking glass. It took Maya a moment to realize he was laughing. "Did you hear that?" the soldier said to his companions. "The little creature thinks it can be our queen." More laughter came from the other aliens. Even some of the humans made nervous giggling sounds, though they tried to hide it. But Vexathara was not laughing. He crouched down so his face was level with Maya's. This close, she could see that his crystal skin was warm, not cold like she had expected. "You think you can be my queen?" he asked. "I know I can," Maya said. "And why is that?" Maya thought for a moment. She could have said lots of things. She could have talked about being brave or smart or special. Instead, she said the truest thing she could think of. "Because I'm the only one here who's not scared of you." Vexathara studied her for a long moment. Then he stood up. "What is your name, little human?" "Maya Chen? Maya Chen," he repeated, tasting the words. "I will make you a bargain." He gestured to the square around them, to all the scared humans and crystal soldiers. Prove to me that you can be worthy of standing beside a Zephyrian Alpha King. Learn our ways. Show me strength that goes beyond the weakness of your species. Do this and I will consider your claim. Maya nodded seriously. How long do I have? However long it takes. Okay, Maya said. But when I do it, you have to keep your promise. If you can prove yourself worthy, little Maya Chen, then yes. I will keep my promise, he turned to his soldiers. This human child is under my protection. She is to come with us. Maya, her mother screamed, running forward. You can't take her. Vexithara looked at the woman with something that might have been pity. She chose this path herself. Would you deny her the chance to rise above what she was born to be? Maya hugged her mother tight. It's okay, Mama, she whispered. I'll come back. And when I do, everything will be different. Her mother was crying too hard to answer. As they walked toward the alien ships, Vexithara looked down at Maya. Do you understand what you have done, child? You have claimed a throne that does not exist. You have promised to become something impossible. Maya looked up at him. My grandmother always said that impossible just means nobody's done it yet. Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman. She was. She also said that queens aren't born, they're made. As they reached the ship, Maya turned back one last time to look at the colony. Her mother was standing in the square, reaching toward her. Mr. Peterson was holding her mother's shoulders. All the other humans looked so small from here. I'll be back, Maya said quietly. And when I come back, you'll all be free. Vexithara heard her, but he did not understand. He thought she was just a clever child playing at being brave. He thought this was a game that would end when she grew up and learned how the world really worked. He did not know that Maya Chen never stopped believing in impossible things. The ship's doors closed behind them, and Maya began the longest game of her life. Maya had been living on the Zephyrian capital ship for 3 years when she learned her first important lesson about lying. She was 11 now, and much smarter than when she first made her promise to Vexithara. The ship was like a floating city, with crystal corridors that sang when you walked through them and rooms that changed their walls to show pictures of distant stars. Maya had her own small quarters near the Alpha King's chambers, and she spent her days learning things no human child had ever learned before. Again, said Instructor Zalthan, tapping his crystal fingers on the teaching table. What is the third law of dominance? Maya made her face look confused, like she was trying very hard to remember. The stronger being should always lead the weaker one? Close but incomplete, Zalthan said with patience. The third law states that strength creates obligation. The stronger being must lead because the weaker one cannot survive without guidance. This is not cruelty but kindness. Maya nodded and looked impressed, like this was a wonderful new idea. Inside her head, she was thinking about how wrong he was. She had seen the humans on Colony New Geneva after the Zephyrians took over. They were working, yes, but they were also learning to hide things. They were talking to each other in ways the crystal beings could not understand. They were surviving just fine, thank you very much. But she did not say this out loud. I think I understand now, she said instead. You're teaching me because I'm too weak to learn on my own. Exactly. Zalthin's crystal skin glowed brighter, which meant he was pleased. You are progressing well for a human, young Maya. Maya smiled and tried to look grateful. She had learned that Zephyrians liked it when she seemed amazed by their wisdom. They liked it when she struggled a little before understanding their lessons. They did not like it when she learned things too quickly, because that made them uncomfortable. So Maya had become very good at pretending to be not quite as smart as she really was. After her lessons, Maya would walk through the ship's corridors. She had permission to go almost anywhere now, because Vexthera found her curiosity amusing. The Zephyrians she passed would nod at her politely. Some even spoke to her. How are your studies progressing, small queen? Asked Commander Velnara as Maya passed the navigation center. Maya grinned. The Zephyrians had started calling her Small Queen as a joke after she had been on the ship for a year. They thought it was funny that a human child still believed she could be their queen someday. Very well, thank you, Maya said. Instructor Zalthan says I'm learning the dominance laws faster than he expected. Good. Perhaps there is hope for your species after all. Maya nodded and continued walking. But she was not really thinking about the dominance laws anymore. She was thinking about what she had seen on the navigation screens. The Zephyrians were planning to attack 3 more human colonies next month. Colonies that did not even know they were coming. That night, Maya sat in her quarters and did something she was definitely not supposed to do. She activated the small communication device hidden in her mattress. It was made from parts she had slowly collected over the past year. A crystal here, a wire there, a power cell that had broken and been thrown away. The device made a soft humming sound, and then a voice came through. "Sparrow, this is Nest. Do you copy?" "I copy, Nest," Maya whispered. Sparrow was her code name in the Human Resistance Network. "I have new information." "Go ahead, Sparrow." Maya told them about the 3 colonies. She gave them the dates and times of the planned attacks. She described the number of ships and the weapons they would bring. "Understood, Sparrow. We'll get word to those colonies. Any other intelligence?" Maya thought about everything else she had learned that week. The location of the Zephyrian fuel depot, the passwords for their communication system, the names of their spy networks on human worlds. "I'm sending a data packet now," she said, connecting another small device to her communicator. "Received. Outstanding work, Sparrow. How are you holding up?" Maya was quiet for a moment. She thought about her mother, who she had not seen in 3 years. She thought about her friends back on Colony New Geneva, who probably thought she was a traitor now. She thought about how tired she was of pretending to be stupid all the time. "I'm fine," she said. "Just remember, everything I do here is part of the plan, even if it looks bad from the outside." "Understood. The Resistance knows you're playing the long game. Keep your head down and stay safe. Will do. Sparrow out." Maya put the communicator away and lay down on her bed. Through her small window, she could see the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth and Colony New Geneva and her mother. Somewhere out there were humans who were still free, and others who were learning to be free. The next morning, Maya went to breakfast in the main dining hall. She had learned to eat Zephyrian food, though it tasted like metal and light. Vexthara was already there reading reports on a crystal tablet. "Good morning, Small Queen," he said without looking up. "Good morning, Alpha King," Maya replied, sitting in the chair beside him. Over the years, this had become their routine. "What did you learn yesterday?" he asked. "The 3rd law of dominance," Maya said, "and I practiced reading battle formations." "And what do you think of the 3rd law?" Maya had prepared for this question. "I think it makes sense, but I don't understand why you need laws about it. If someone is really stronger, wouldn't they just lead naturally?" Vexithara finally looked at her. Maya could see her reflection in his purple eyes. "An intelligent question. Laws exist because even strong beings sometimes forget their obligations. The laws remind us that power must be used responsibly." "Oh," Maya said, nodding like this was a new idea. "So the laws aren't really for the weak people at all. They're for the strong people, to help them remember how to be good leaders." Vexithara's crystal skin glowed brighter. "Precisely. You understand more than I expected." Maya smiled, but inside she was thinking about how the Zephyrians had used their strength on Colony New Geneva, how they had burned buildings and scared children and taken people away from their families. She wondered if Vexithara really believed that was responsible leadership, or if he just told himself that to feel better about it. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said. "Of course. Do you ever think about the human children on the colonies? The ones who are my age now?" Vexthara was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes." "Why do you ask?" "I just wonder if they have enough to eat, and if they're learning things in school, and if they're happy." "The colonies are well managed," Vexithara said carefully. "Humans who work hard are treated fairly." Maya nodded, but she was thinking about the intelligence reports she had read in his computer system. Reports about human productivity problems and attitude adjustments, and necessary discipline measures. Reports that told a very different story than treated fairly. "I'm glad," she said out loud. "I want them to be okay." "You have a kind heart, Maya Chen. It is one of your better human qualities." After breakfast, Maya went to her combat training session. The Zephyrians had decided she should learn to fight, since a queen would need to defend herself. Instructor Mordak was teaching her how to use crystal weapons and energy shields. "Your reflexes are improving," Mordak said as Maya blocked his practice strikes. "But you still think too much. In battle, thinking takes too long. You must trust your instincts." Maya nodded and tried again, but she was not really trying to get better at fighting. She was trying to learn how Zephyrian weapons worked so she could find their weaknesses. Every block and strike was teaching her something new about their technology. Better. Mordak said. Perhaps humans are not as hopeless as I thought. That evening, Maya stood on the observation deck and looked out at the stars. She was 15 now, though she sometimes felt much older. In 3 more years, she would be 18. An adult by human standards. Vexithara found her there. Thinking deep thoughts, small queen. Just wondering what it will be like when I'm really your queen, Maya said. Will I have my own ship? My own soldiers? If you truly prove yourself worthy, you will have whatever a queen requires. Maya turned to look at him. And what would I need to do to prove myself? I've learned your laws and your language and your fighting techniques. I've studied your history and your technology. What else is there? Vexithara was quiet for a long time. Maya could see he was thinking seriously about her question. You have learned much, he said finally. But knowledge is not wisdom. Skills are not strength. To be worthy of standing beside an Alpha King, you must show that you can lead others. You must show that you can make difficult choices. You must show that you understand what power really means. How? When the time comes, you will know. Maya nodded and looked back at the stars. She was thinking about the 3 colonies that had been saved because of her warning. She was thinking about the resistance networks that were getting stronger every day because of the intelligence she provided. She was thinking about all the difficult choices she had already made, and all the ones still to come. I think I'm starting to understand, she said softly. But Vexthara did not hear the real meaning in her words. He thought she was still the same curious child who had walked up to him 5 years ago. He did not know that Maya Chen was becoming exactly what she had promised to become, just not in the way he expected. The stars watched and waited, and the long game continued. Maya was 25 years old when she made her first big mistake as Vexthara's advisor. At least that was what everyone thought it was. She stood in the war room of the flagship surrounded by crystal-skinned generals and admirals, looking at a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots showed Zephyrian territory. Blue dots showed unconquered worlds. There were far more red dots than blue ones now. The Kepler sector, Maya said, pointing to a cluster of blue dots near the edge of the map. Those worlds are rich in minerals you need for your new weapons. And they're far from any major defense networks. General Caxmore leaned forward to study the display. The distance would make supply lines difficult to maintain. Not if you establish a forward base first, Maya countered. Look at the positioning. Take these 3 systems and you control the entire sector. It would be like having a knife pointed at the heart of human space. Vexithara watched the discussion with interest. Maya had been his unofficial advisor for 3 years now, ever since she had correctly predicted the outcome of the Rigel campaign. The other Zephyrians had stopped seeing her as just a pet human. Now they saw her as a valuable strategic mind. They had no idea that every suggestion she made was designed to stretch their forces thinner. What do you think, Alpha King? Asked Admiral Zentara. Vexithara studied the map for a long moment. Maya's reasoning is sound. The Kepler sector would give us significant strategic advantages. Begin preparations for the campaign. Maya nodded and tried to look pleased. Inside, she was counting numbers. The Kepler campaign would require 15 battleships and 30 support vessels. Those ships would be months away from the core Zephyrian worlds, months away from being able to respond to other threats. After the meeting, Vexithara asked Maya to walk with him through the Crystal Gardens. This was another routine they had developed over the years. The gardens were beautiful, with plants that grew like living jewels and flowers that sang in harmony. You seem troubled, Vexithara observed. Maya looked up at him with surprise. Do I? I was just thinking about the campaign logistics. No, it's something else. I have watched you grow from a child to a woman, Maya Chen. I know your expressions better than you think. Maya was quiet for a moment. This was dangerous territory. Vexithara was more perceptive than the other Zephyrians. She had to be very careful around him. It's just, sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing, she said finally. What do you mean? I'm helping you conquer human worlds. My own species. Sometimes I think about the people living there and I wonder if they see me as a traitor. Vexithara stopped walking and turned to face her. Do you believe you are a traitor? Maya met his eyes. I don't know. I want to be your queen, but that means helping you defeat my own people. It's complicated. Power often requires difficult choices, Vexithara said. A true queen must be willing to sacrifice for the greater good. What if the greater good isn't what we think it is? Vexithara studied her face. You are having doubts about our cause. Not doubts, Maya said carefully. Questions. I've been studying Zephyrian history, and I've noticed something interesting. Your empire has conquered dozens of species over the centuries, but very few of those species ever truly became part of Zephyrian society. They remain separate, controlled rather than integrated. And what do you conclude from this observation? I think maybe the problem isn't that other species are too weak to be Zephyrians. Maybe the problem is that the Zephyrian way of thinking about strength is too narrow. This was the most dangerous thing Maya had ever said to Vexithara. She was essentially challenging the foundation of his entire worldview. But she needed to plant this seed of doubt if her long-term plan was going to work. Vexithara was quiet for a very long time. They continued walking through the gardens, listening to the singing flowers. You think humans might have something to offer the Empire beyond labor and resources, he said finally. I think every species might, but you'll never find out what that is if you only see them as servants to be controlled. And what would you suggest instead? Maya took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been building toward for years. What if there was a way to show the galaxy that Zephyrians and humans could be true partners? What if you could demonstrate that your empire is about more than just conquest and control? I am listening. The Grand Convergence is coming in 2 years, Maya said. Representatives from every conquered world will be there. What if you use that opportunity to show them something they've never seen before? Which is? A human who chose to stand beside you not as a servant, but as an equal. A human queen who proves that your empire can evolve beyond simple domination. Vexithara stopped walking again. You want me to make you queen at the Grand Convergence? I want you to show the galaxy that the little girl who promised to be your queen 20 years ago has kept her word. But more than that, I want you to show them that the Zephyrian Empire is strong enough to accept new ideas about what strength means. Maya could see Vexithara thinking. She could almost watch the ideas moving behind his purple eyes. It would be unprecedented, he said. Yes, and that's exactly why it would be so powerful. The other alphas would resist. They would say humans are not worthy of such honor. Then you would prove them wrong. You would prove that you are strong enough to see potential where others see only weakness. Vexithara smiled, and Maya felt a chill. She knew that smile. It was the smile he got when he was planning something that would shock everyone. You have given me much to think about, Maya Chen. That night, Maya activated her secret communicator. The resistance network had grown much larger over the years, and her contact protocols had become more sophisticated. Sparrow to Nest priority message. Go ahead. Sparrow. The Alpha King is considering making me queen at the Grand Convergence. This could be our chance. Understood. What do you need from us? Maya thought about all the pieces that would need to fall into place. The timing would have to be perfect. The preparations would take months, and everyone would have to play their parts exactly right. I need you to spread word through all the resistance cells. When I become queen, it won't be a sign that humans are giving up. It will be a signal that the real fight is about to begin. Copy that, Sparrow. What's the timeline? 2 years. Maybe less if I can convince him to move faster. We'll be ready. Maya put the communicator away and lay down on her bed. Through her window, she could see the stars wheeling slowly overhead. Somewhere out there, human resistance fighters were planning operations based on intelligence she had provided. Somewhere out there, her mother was still alive, still waiting for her daughter to come home. Maya closed her eyes and tried to imagine what her mother would think if she could see her now. Living on an alien ship, advising the enemy, helping plan attacks against human worlds. Would her mother understand that this was all part of a larger plan? Would she see the long game that Maya was playing? Or would she just see a daughter who had forgotten where she came from? The next morning brought news that changed everything. A messenger ship arrived with reports from the Kepler sector. The campaign Maya had suggested was going badly. The human defenders had somehow known exactly where to hit the Zephyrian supply lines. They had predicted every major tactical move. It was almost like someone had given them detailed intelligence about Zephyrian battle plans. How is this possible? General Caxmore demanded at the Emergency War Council. Our communications were secure. Our plans were known only to the highest levels of command. Maya sat quietly and listened to the arguments. She had expected this moment would come eventually. The resistance had been too successful lately. Sooner or later, someone would start asking the right questions. There must be a spy in our ranks, Admiral Zentara said. Someone with access to our strategic planning. Impossible, Vexthar replied. Everyone in this room has been loyalty tested. Everyone here has proven their dedication to the Empire. Maya felt eyes turning toward her. She was the newest member of the council, and the only non-Zephyrian. Of course they would suspect her first. Perhaps, General Caxmore said slowly, we have been too trusting of our human advisor. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Maya could feel the weight of their suspicion settling around her like a net. Vexithara looked at her with an expression she had never seen before. Not anger exactly. Something colder than that. Something more dangerous, Maya, he said quietly. Do you have anything to say about these failures? Maya met his gaze steadily. This was the moment she had been preparing for since she was 8 years old. Everything depended on what she said next. Yes, she said, I do. The room went completely silent. I think, Maya continued, that you're fighting the wrong war. And then she began to tell them exactly what she meant by that. She talked about the nature of human resistance and why traditional Zephyrian tactics would never work against it. She talked about the psychology of occupied populations, and how oppression created exactly the kind of determination that was so hard to break. She told them truths they had never wanted to hear, wrapped in language that made it sound like she was trying to help them win. By the time she was finished, they were all staring at her with a mixture of amazement and suspicion. The chains were beautiful. Maya had designed them herself, working with the finest Zephyrian craftsmen to create something that would be worthy of the Grand Convergence. They were made of silver-white metal that caught the light like captured starshine, with intricate patterns that told the story of her journey from human child to Zephyrian queen. The irony was not lost on her. Are you ready? Vexithara asked. Maya stood in the preparation chamber deep within the Convergence Station, the massive space platform where representatives from 200 conquered worlds had gathered. Through the crystal walls, she could see ships from dozens of species floating in the darkness. Each one carried delegates who had come to witness what Vexithara called a new era in galactic civilization. Maya looked down at the chains in her hands. They felt heavier than they should have, considering what they were really made of. I'm ready, she said. Vexithara studied her face. Over the past year, as they had planned this ceremony, he had watched her carefully. Maya knew he still had doubts about her true loyalties, but those doubts had not stopped him from moving forward with making her his queen. Once we do this, there will be no going back, he said. You will be bound to the Zephyrian Empire forever. You will be my partner in ruling 200 worlds. Are you certain this is what you want? Maya met his purple eyes. I told you when I was 8 years old that I would be your queen someday. I've never changed my mind about that, but you have changed in other ways. Yes, I've learned that keeping promises sometimes requires doing things that look like betrayal. Vexithara was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Come, it is time. They walked through the corridors of the station toward the Grand Assembly Hall. Maya could hear the sound of thousands of voices speaking in hundreds of languages. Representatives from every species in the Empire were waiting to witness this unprecedented event. As they approached the great doors, Vexithara stopped. The chains are symbolic, he said. They represent the bond between us and your willing acceptance of the responsibilities that come with power. But Maya, if you are not truly with me in this, if you are still playing some game I do not understand, then those chains will become very real very quickly. Maya looked at him with surprise. Are you threatening me? I am warning you. The other alphas still believe humans cannot be trusted with real authority. They are watching for any sign that I have made a mistake. If you betray that trust, then I will face the consequences, Maya finished. I understand, do you? Maya lifted the chains and began fastening them around her wrists. The metal was warm against her skin. Vexithara, she said softly, do you remember what I told you the day we met? About impossible things. You said that impossible just means nobody has done it yet. That's right. And today, we're going to do something impossible together. The great doors opened, and they walked into the Grand Assembly Hall. Maya had seen this chamber in holographs and planning documents, but experiencing it in person was overwhelming. The hall was vast enough to hold a small city, with galleries rising in tiers that seemed to reach toward the stars. Representatives from 200 worlds filled those galleries, their diverse forms creating a tapestry of alien life. In the center of the hall was a raised platform where the ceremony would take place. Floating cameras captured every angle, broadcasting the event to every corner of the Empire. As they walked toward the platform, Maya scanned the galleries. She saw Catharian diplomats with their flowing tentacles, Forthun warriors with their scaled hides, Nexian scholars with their compound eyes. All of them watched her with curiosity and skepticism. And there, in a gallery reserved for human representatives from the core worlds, she saw a face that made her heart skip. Her mother. Maya had not seen her mother in 20 years, but she would have recognized that face anywhere. Elizabeth Chen looked older, grayer, but her eyes were the same eyes that had watched Maya walk toward Vexithara on Colony New Geneva all those years ago. Their eyes met across the vast space, and Maya saw her mother's lips move in a single, silent word. Maya. Maya forced herself to look away. She could not afford to be distracted now. They reached the platform and Vexithara began the formal ceremony. His voice carried easily through the hall, translated simultaneously into hundreds of languages. "Citizens of the Zephyrian Empire," he said, "today marks a new chapter in our shared history. For the first time in our civilization's existence, a non-Zephyrian will be elevated to the throne." Murmurs rippled through the galleries. Maya could feel the weight of thousands of stares. 20 years ago, Vexithara continued, "I met a human child who made me a promise. She told me she would be my queen someday. Today that promise is fulfilled." He gestured to Maya and she stepped forward. The chains on her wrists caught the light, sending sparkles across the platform. "This is Maya Chen," Vexithara announced. "She has studied our ways, mastered our languages, and proven her wisdom in matters of war and peace. She has earned the right to stand beside me as an equal partner in leadership." More murmurs, louder now. Maya could hear surprise, skepticism, even anger in those alien voices. "But," Vexithara said, raising his hand for silence, "leadership requires sacrifice. It requires the willingness to be bound by duty and responsibility. These chains represent Maya's willing acceptance of that burden." Maya held up her hands, showing the beautiful chains to the assembled crowd. In the galleries, she could see delegates leaning forward to get a better look. "I accept these chains," Maya said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. "I accept the responsibilities they represent. And I accept the honor of serving beside Alpha King Vexithara as Queen of the Zephyrian Empire." The crowd erupted in a mixture of cheers and protests. Some delegates were on their feet applauding, while others were clearly outraged. Maya had expected this reaction. What she had not expected was what happened next. "However," Maya continued, her voice cutting through the noise, "I have one condition." The hall fell silent. Vexithara looked at her with surprise. "A condition?" he asked. Maya smiled. "You said these chains represent my acceptance of responsibility. But responsibility works both ways. If I am to be bound by duty to the Empire, then the Empire must be bound by duty to all its citizens. What are you saying?" Maya looked out at the galleries, at the hundreds of alien faces watching her. Her mother was leaning forward, her hand pressed to her heart. "I'm saying that a queen's first responsibility is to her people. All of her people. Not just the conquerors, but the conquered. Not just the strong, but the weak. Not just the Zephyrians, but every species that calls this empire home." Vexithara's crystal skin was beginning to glow brighter, which meant he was either pleased or angry. With Zephyrians, it was often hard to tell the difference. "You speak of changing the fundamental nature of our empire," he said. "I speak of fulfilling its potential," Maya replied. "For too long, this empire has been built on domination. I propose we rebuild it on cooperation." The hall exploded into chaos. Delegates were shouting in dozens of languages, some supporting Maya's words, others condemning them. Security forces moved to surround the platform. Through the noise, Maya heard a sound that made her heart race. It was a specific pattern of applause, 3 short claps followed by 2 long ones, the signal she had been waiting for. In galleries throughout the hall, certain delegates were clapping in the same pattern. Human resistance operatives who had spent years infiltrating the diplomatic corps. They were telling her that they were ready. Maya looked at Vexithara, who was staring at her with an expression of dawning understanding. "You planned this," he said quietly. "I planned everything," Maya replied, "including what happens next." She reached into a hidden pocket in her ceremonial robes and pulled out a small device. It looked like a simple jeweled ornament, but when she pressed a concealed button, it began to emit a high-pitched sound. The sound was barely audible to most species, but it had a very specific effect on the chains around Maya's wrists. The special alloy she had insisted on using began to dissolve, reacting to the sonic frequency like salt in water. The chains fell away from her hands and clattered to the platform. "Guards," Vexithara shouted, but his voice was drowned out by explosions echoing from throughout the station. Maya's resistance operatives had been busy during the ceremony. Hidden explosives, planted over months of careful preparation, were detonating in key systems throughout the convergence station. Life support, communications, navigation, all the critical systems that kept the massive platform operational. 20 years ago, Maya said, her voice somehow carrying clearly through the chaos. "You asked me to prove I was worthy of being your queen. Today I'm going to show you what human strength really looks like." Emergency lights began flashing as the station's main power grid failed. In the galleries, delegates were scrambling for the exits, but Maya's operatives had sealed the blast doors. No one was leaving until this was finished. Vexithara drew his crystal blade, the traditional weapon of Zephyrian royalty. His purple eyes were blazing with fury. "You have betrayed everything," he snarled. "Your own promise, our partnership, the trust I placed in you." Maya stood facing him, no longer bothering to hide the steel in her voice. "I kept my promise," she said. "I told you I would be your queen. I never said I would be your subject." 6 months after the Grand Convergence, Maya Chen stood on the bridge of the liberation ship New Geneva, looking out at the most beautiful sight she had ever seen, Earth. The blue-green planet hung in space like a jewel, exactly as she remembered it from the old photographs. Clouds swirled across continents she had only dreamed of visiting. City lights sparkled on the dark side, proof that humanity had survived everything the galaxy had thrown at them. "Ma'am," said Captain Rodriguez, approaching with a communication tablet, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 more Zephyrian colonies. That brings the total to over 100. Maya nodded, not taking her eyes off Earth. "What about the core worlds? Still holding out?" "But their supply lines are cut, and more of their client species are joining the Liberation Coalition every day. It's only a matter of time." Maya finally turned away from the viewport. The bridge of the New Geneva was busy with activity. Human officers worked alongside Catharian navigators, Vorthan engineers, and even a few Zephyrian defectors. It was everything she had dreamed of. A truly cooperative multi-species crew. "Any word from Vexithara?" she asked. Captain Rodriguez shook his head. "The Alpha King hasn't responded to any of our communication attempts. Intelligence suggests he's holed up in the Imperial Palace on Zeph Prime with what's left of the old guard." Maya sighed. She had hoped that Vexithara would be more reasonable. Over the past 6 months, she had tried dozens of times to contact him, to offer him a path that didn't end in complete destruction of everything he had built. He had refused every overture. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Park, the communications officer, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. President Martinez wants to speak with you." Maya straightened her uniform. A simple blue design that bore no resemblance to either human, military dress, or Zephyrian royal robes. She had insisted on something new, something that represented the future rather than the past. "Put him through." The main screen flickered, and President Martinez appeared. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and graying hair, elected just 2 months ago in Earth's first free elections in 20 years. "Your Majesty," he said with a slight bow. Maya winced. "Please, just Maya, I've had enough of royal titles to last a lifetime." Martinez smiled. "Of course. Maya, I wanted to personally thank you for everything you've done. The liberation of Earth, the formation of the Coalition. None of this would have been possible without your sacrifice." "I didn't do it alone, Mr. President. The resistance networks, the brave people who never gave up hope, the species who chose to stand with us instead of their former oppressors. They're the real heroes of this story. Nevertheless, your role was crucial. Which brings me to why I'm calling. The Coalition Council has unanimously voted to offer you the position of Supreme Coordinator. You would have executive authority over all military and diplomatic operations." Maya was quiet for a moment. She had been expecting this offer, and she had been dreading it. "I'm honored by the Council's confidence," she said finally, "but I have to decline. Maya, the Coalition needs your leadership. You're the only person all the member species trust completely." That's exactly why I can't take the position, Maya replied. Mr. President, I spent 20 years learning how power corrupts even when it's held by good people with good intentions. The coalition needs to succeed without depending on any one person, or it will just become another empire. Martinez looked disappointed but not surprised. I suspected you might say that. What will you do instead? Maya glanced around the bridge at her diverse crew. There are still isolated Zephyrian outposts scattered throughout the galaxy. Some of them are holding human prisoners. Others are trying to restart the conquest program. My crew and I are going to find them and convince them that the war is over. And if they don't want to be convinced, then we'll convince them in other ways. After the call ended, Maya walked to her private quarters. They were small and simple, nothing like the luxurious rooms she had occupied on Vexthara's flagship. But they were hers, and that made all the difference. A soft chime announced a visitor. Come in, Maya called. The door opened and her mother entered. Elizabeth Chen looked much better than she had 6 months ago. Good food and medical care had restored some of her youth, and her eyes were bright with pride and love. Hello, sweetheart, she said. Hi, Mom. They hugged for a long moment, something they had done many times over the past months but which still felt precious and new. I heard about the coalition's offer, Elizabeth said as they sat down. And I'm proud of you for turning it down. Power was never what you were really after, was it? Maya thought about that question. No, I don't think it was. I think what I really wanted was the power to choose. To live in a galaxy where being human didn't automatically make you a victim. And now you have that. Now everyone has that. Or they will once we finish cleaning up the mess. Elizabeth was quiet for a moment. Do you ever regret it? The choices you made, the things you had to do? Maya considered the question seriously. She thought about the years of deception, the intelligence she had passed to the resistance that had led to Zephyrian deaths, the trust she had betrayed. I regret that it was necessary, she said finally, but I don't regret doing it. Sometimes the only way to stop a cycle of oppression is to break it completely, even if it means breaking people who trusted you. Maya nodded. Even then, a communication alert interrupted their conversation. Captain Rodriguez appeared on the wall screen. Ma'am, we're receiving an unexpected transmission. It's from Vexthara. Maya felt her heart skip a beat. Put him through. The screen flickered, and suddenly she was looking at the Alpha King for the first time in 6 months. He looked older, more tired than she remembered. His crystal skin had lost some of its luster, and there were new lines around his purple eyes. Hello, Maya, he said. Hello, Vexthara. They looked at each other across the light years of space. Two former partners who had become enemies who might still become something else. I wanted to congratulate you, Vexthara said. Your strategy was masterful. I never suspected the true scope of your deception. It wasn't all deception, Maya replied. My respect for you was real. My desire to find a better way was real. But your loyalty was always to humanity. My loyalty was always to the idea that strength should protect the weak, not dominate them. You taught me that, remember? The third law of dominance, Vexthara almost smiled. I taught you my people's interpretation of that law. You found a better interpretation. So what happens now? Maya asked. Now I offer you what I should have offered 20 years ago. A genuine partnership. Not between conqueror and conquered, but between equals. Maya felt her mother's hand squeeze her shoulder. What kind of partnership? Maya asked. Help me rebuild Zephyrian society. My people are lost without their empire. They don't know how to exist without someone to rule over. You could teach them. And what would you offer in return? Everything I have left. My remaining ships. My knowledge of the galaxy's remaining threats. My influence with the Zephyrian colonies that haven't surrendered yet. Most importantly, my promise that the age of empire is truly over. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Around her, the bridge crew had stopped their work to listen to this historic conversation. There would have to be conditions, she said finally. Name them. Complete autonomy for all former client species. Reparations for the damage caused by conquest. And most importantly, no more Alpha Kings. If Zephyrian society is going to change, it has to change all the way. You're asking me to give up everything that makes us Zephyrian. I'm asking you to give up everything that made you oppressors. Keep the rest, the art, the culture, the technology, the genuine wisdom. Just lose the need to dominate others. Vexthara was quiet for a very long time. Maya could see him thinking, weighing his options. If I agree to this, he said finally, what becomes of me? I am an alpha king without an empire.
What am I then?
Maya smiled. You're whatever you choose to be. That's the point. And you? What will you choose to be? Maya looked around the bridge at her mixed crew working together toward common goals. She thought about all the isolated outposts still holding prisoners, all the species still fighting for their freedom, all the work still to be done. I'll be what I've always been, she said, someone who keeps her promises. 3 days later, Maya stood in the observation lounge of the New Geneva, watching as Vexithera's flagship approached for docking. She was nervous, though she tried not to show it. This meeting would set the tone for everything that came next. The airlock opened and Vexithera walked through. He was not wearing his royal robes or his crystalline crown. Instead, he wore simple clothes similar to those favored by the Liberation Coalition. He looked smaller somehow, more vulnerable, but his purple eyes were as sharp as ever. Hello, Maya, he said. Hello, Vexithera. They stood facing each other in the observation lounge, with the stars wheeling slowly outside the viewport. 20 years of history lay between them, promises and betrayals, partnership and conflict, the rise and fall of an empire. So, Vexithera said. What now? Maya held out her hand. Now we build something better. Vexithera looked at her hand for a moment. Then he reached out and shook it. Partners? He asked. Partners, Maya confirmed.